welcome back. It's Christine again with the Artist Bod, and today I thought we'd do something a little different and talk about how to add a background, specifically a sky, to a composition. So let's get arting. Alright, so I know you can see I've already started drawing this particular image. I just thought it would be interesting to take a look at and discuss adding in a background, right? Like, the sketch alone has taken me several weeks to do, and a ton of layers. Every individual hand and person and arm, that's all different layers, so I've built up a lot of layers quickly. And now I'm adding in the background before I start really sketching them in. So when I'm doing a background like this, I typically decide what direction I'm going to have these lines going. There's not going to be a lot of details in the background. The figures in the foreground are really going to take up the energy, but the background I'm going to have sort of circling around them. I decided to have a central circular point right through this mass of bodies, which you can't see, and then I'll be filling in this sort of orange, reddish, it's really reddish, but it definitely looks more orange, kind of all around them. So this can take a while because it's just these lines, and I just try to make sure that, it's following on that center point. There's some flexibility to have some deviation in the lines. I'm not sketching it out like I typically do when I'm doing the fur, where I put in one base layer. This is the final layer for the sky because I've already drawn out the figures. The sky's kind of the background, so I'm not as worried about sort of fixing that. I'm also doing this first so that as I draw the figures, the layer will be on top and I can sort of take over whatever background is here for the sky. And once I find it easier, especially having done images like this before where I've included a background, to sort of decide ahead of time what direction I'm having this go and why. Whether I have it all jaggedly coming down in one angle or, all aimed or pointing in, like fanning out harshly from a center figure, or in this case having a center line you can't see and building out from there. I find that to be easier when creating the background. On an image like this, it takes a lot of planning. As I mentioned, the sketch alone, because I just a few minutes ago started adding in this background, this sketch alone took weeks. So I anticipate the actual drawing to take a while, and I don't know that I'm going to record the whole process, but I thought it'd at least be interesting to talk about, the background, how I'm going to do that on an image like this, and how to sort of plan that out. The background is probably going to take a while. I don't even know that I'll be able to get the background itself done today, but we're going to see how that goes. So as you know, I usually do images of animals. This has been one that's been in the back of my mind for a long time, and I finally decided to draw it out. As I'm doing this, I'm not putting full pin pressure. That'll give me flexibility to add some atmosphere, right? Like to really brighten that up. You can see that I'm really holding back my pin pressure here until I get the entire sky done. And then I'll be able to sort of layer up different areas to create more atmosphere to it. If I'm having trouble, I find zooming in can really help to get my lines right where I want them. It'll also help having the figure on top of, but around a lot of delicate things like fingers, it's easier to just zoom in. So as I'm doing this, I'm doing it very much like I would still with the fur. It's light strokes. Because it's the sky, there's no real need to have it any shorter, so I'm trying to make longer strokes while still keeping my pin pressure relatively light. Sometimes with long strokes, we have a tendency to press down a little bit harder, so I'm shortening myself up just a little bit to keep my strokes light, but otherwise I don't need to. I could make them as long as I wanted to. Staggering them and just sort of lightly filling them in and trying to make sure I'm keeping to that sort of circular pattern. What's nice about doing something like this on a big composition like this is as I fill in the rest of the figures, they're not going to be following the same lines that the background is. So that'll create a nice direct difference. I'm also probably going to have like a little burst of light coming in a different color and in a different direction. So we'll see how that works too. I'm hoping it'll create sort of a sunbeam effect, but I'm going to be doing that after I get the sketch for the people in. Or the sketch, I should say. I draw, finish drawing them in past the sketch. I think I mentioned this in another video, my little pin nub on my Wacom tablet's going out, and so that means sometimes I can't get the fine light details I'm looking for. Really only impacts it when I'm putting less pin pressure. It's with their new Wacom's newer pins, they don't last as long. They have given them shorter nubs, I guess, so that you have to buy them more often. But they wear out before they get all the way down, and it makes it harder to get some of the fine details. Not a lot, but it definitely, if I'm doing a small light detail, it can make it trickier because I have to spin the pin to get the right effect. Otherwise it just loses any sort of, doesn't record my strokes if I'm too light when it's going out. The nibs are easy to replace. You just sort of pluck them out and pop a new one in, but when they start going out, it makes it a little bit more challenging. Still love Wacom though. Very, very good tablets. Love it, almost everything about them. As it gets, because I'll wear this out more than it is, so as it gets further and further worn down, it's going to get trickier and trickier as I do, more and more art. It's not too bad right now, but I can tell in certain angles it's not recording my strokes. It's a whole lot of work and nothing's happening. And I don't know yet if I like this color for it. I'm going for a red, and this is almost too orange. But it's easy enough to change the color if this doesn't work. And see right here, I'm drawing, but it's not putting as much lines down. It's putting a little, but if I turn my pin around, see how much that's going to fill in just that little bit, because it's wearing out on that side. That's what it does when it starts wearing out, is it's not at all filling in to the same degree. So it's not brushing as far, it's not making the mark as deep. I lose just a little bit of control on the weaker side of it. Right, so there's the sort of sky in the background. If I wanted to add, areas of atmosphere, it's just a matter of like really thickening up an area, right? Like, just creating these bright spots randomly. Create a sense of light and depth. And then I'll also have that beam coming down, so that'll add some interest as well. I'm not really putting full pin pressure when I do this, but I'm just layering up the lines to brighten them up. And you can see it adds some interest by adding, you know, these bright sections into the sky. And of course the sky's looking a little ominous, but that is the point of this particular composition. You know, you could do it in whatever color you want, or change it however you want so that it's not just this reddish orange. You know, you can have, this works with blue, it works with, you know, if you're doing a sky for a background like this, or just, you know, sort of filling in the space, this is how you do it. I wonder, so I just turned it a little redder. Kind of like that brighter color on the red. But let's see what happens if we turn the whole thing red. Yeah, I think that's the effect I was going for. And so that's that's just the background. All of this foreground stuff is going to probably take me weeks to do and finish. But background is a start. Alright, so that is how you add a sky to a composition. It really just involves sort of planning it out ahead of time and deciding what direction all your lines are going to go. Whether that's, you know, coming sideways, coming straight down, or at a diagonal. Completely up to you. So I hope all of that was helpful. In the floating nether next to me, I have other videos of art tutorials I have done, and I will see you all soon. Thank you so much. Take care.